Now, of course, we know that exercise is one of the most important things we can do for our physical and mental health. But how much do we actually need? Is there a minimum? Is there such thing as too much exercise? Now, to answer these questions, we first need to make sure that we're answering them in a way that fits in with our life. Because if you ask someone who is maybe a busy young parent, a FIFO worker, or a white-collar corporate to exercise every day, maybe it's just not realistic. Sure, maybe it would be great if they could, but it's just probably not going to happen. So we need to find this balance between how much you should do and how much you actually can do and still live your life. We have to find a middle ground that gives you all the physical and mental benefits while still making sure it just realistically fits in. So let's pretend for a moment that human psychology doesn't come into this and only look at the physical side of the equation. Now, of course, this is completely not how the real world works because we need to consider the human mind, our habits, our motivation, our consistency, our ability to adhere and stick with the exercise. But by looking at just the physical benefits, it's at least a good place to start. So firstly, looking at one session a week, it's absolutely infinitely better than none. So if you're not currently exercising at all, doing something once a week will absolutely change your life. Something, of course, is better than nothing. However, with that being said, there's only so much you can get out of one exercise session a week. And at a lot of our range of motion staff professional development events, our staff and personal coaches often discuss the surprising acceleration of health improvements that we see in our clients when they go from exercising once a week to exercising 2 or 3 times a week. Now, purely based on our observations and the fact that we've got over 65 years of exercise experience in the health and fitness space, exercising twice a week seems more than twice as good as exercising once a week. And exercising 3 times a week, again, it gives this big jump on exercising twice a week. So if we can go from 1 to 2 or 2 to 3 or 3 to 4, it seems almost like it's more than the sum of its parts. But then things start to change a little bit. This exponential growth of benefit, it begins to slow. Exercising 5, 6 or 7 times a week, it doesn't seem to continue these skyrocketing benefits that we see when our clients are doing 3 or 4 sessions a week. Now, of course, if you can exercise 6 days a week, it's amazing. But is that really that much better than 3 or 4 days a week? Maybe, but probably not. Because research has shown that certain types of exercise and all of those types of exercise that we prescribe to our clients at Range of Motion, these forms of exercise start to result in what's called EPOC, or excess post-exercise oxygen consumption. What this basically means, and what the science shows us, is that after this style of exercise, our body starts to operate at a higher metabolic rate, and it does so for up to 40 hours. So if you can exercise 3 or 4 times a week, your body will be continuing to experience all of these benefits of exercise for almost the entire week. Think of this like a passive income. Just 4 bouts of exercise per week can give to you about 160 hours of this free benefit. Now, if we start to consider the fact that there are 168 hours in the week, 3 or 4 sessions a week seems to be a really good sweet spot. And if we try to fit our life in around exercise, exercising for more than 3 or 4 days a week might start to feel overwhelming and unsustainable. Because in the end, sustainability and your consistency of exercise are the absolute keys. So aside from the health and fitness benefits, 3 or 4 days of exercise a week also seems to be the sweet spot for habit formation. If you can exercise 3 or 4 days a week, it will become an automatic part of your week. It'll help to put the health benefits of exercise on autopilot. So the evidence seems clear. Whether we look at the physical benefits or for psychological and more behavioral reasons, if you can exercise 3 to 4 times a week, you're optimizing the return you'll get on the work that you put in.